सभी को नमस्कार। हेरिटेज के अपने इस कोर्स में आज का इस दिन जो है इसमें मैं आप सभी का स्वागत करता हूं और मैं सिंधु जी से विनती करता हूं कि कृपया वो आज के अपने इस सत्र की शुरुआत करें।
Thank you, sir. Namaskar to all. I will start again with the presentation. Is the screen visible to all of you,
Just
sir?
a minute, till now there is no any screen.
Hello. Okay. It is saying it is trying to share. There's some fluctuations at my end.
No, till now we can't see
You see it
any
now, sir?
presentation. If it is visible,
Okay.
if it
I'll
is
just
visible there,
reshare it again.
stop presenting and then again start it.
I'll do that, sir. I'll do that. It is not allowing me to present.
Now it is okay. Now it is seeing here.
Okay. You're seeing the slide?
You please click on your presentation.
Okay.
Your PPT. Click on your PPT. Yeah, we see here your presentation.
Can you see it now, sir? Okay, sir. Then I'll start. And today's session, we will focus on heritage and democracy. Here, I have looked at two case studies. One which expresses the global scenario.
Very sorry. I request to all the participants, is there
Yes, sir.
Is there anyone seeing the presentation?
No, sir, we can't see.
Then Sindhuji, we can see here the message presentation by you, but not the slide.
I can see only blank screen.
I'll again.
Yes.
Okay. Just give me a moment,
Yes,
sir. I will
okay,
just
okay,
do it
yeah.
again.
Now it's okay. Now it's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then finally, we'll go ahead and start with today's session. It is about heritage and democracy. And here, I've tried to put in two case studies. One is at a global World Heritage Site, and the other one is a local example of a community heritage site. Like always, we'll have a quick recap. In yesterday's session, we looked at techniques for approaching conservation. And then we also looked at causes of decay in cultural property, common threads to all our historical structures and sites, like external causes of decay, biological and botanical causes, natural disasters, man-made causes of decay, etc., with examples. And then we proceeded to understand how documenting or documentation becomes very important with respect to conservation of heritage property. We try to understand the process with three stages, where we understood the first stage, which is documentation, which had investigation, measure drawing, problem identification, condition mapping, and evaluate causes for decay, all of this as its constituents. And in the second stage, which was more action or execution oriented, where we actually try to do something on site, We understood how we had to plan the time execution of the project, and then identify skills required for conservation process, and then team building and working with management plan and phasing our conservation work. And the third stage was monitoring stage, where our focus was to understand after the conservation interventions how we need to maintain the conservation, take it forward. And as such, we understood that focus on heritage and democracy. Now, by allowing a heritage property to decay and disappear by either neglecting it or allowing it for vandalism.
Excuse me, ma'am, your voice is breaking, ma'am.
Or erasing thereby deleting all a the net here is really weak today somehow. Can you hear me now, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what we do by allowing a heritage site to be neglected or vandalized, or totally erase it for a new construction, we are actually destroying our connection with the past, thereby deleting all our cultural roots and probable vision that these heritage properties could actually offer to our own future and for our future generations to come. So democracy in this context is defined as institutional services that benefit the public and which demonstrate the mosaic of public preferences and interests, particularly in conservation of heritage. With this, we will quickly understand the objective of this session, and that would be to understand how conservation institutions or agencies play a huge role in facilitating heritage democracy. It is about thinking heritage and democracy together in general and making a case for human rights and heritage in particular. So with the first case study of Stonehenge, we look at a very controversial issue here. I will bring in the context a little. There was a proposal of underground tunnel on the Stonehenge approved by archaeologists, approved by the government over archaeologists and objections of, many other protesters. The British government had approved this plan to build a 4-lane highway tunnel beneath the Stonehenge World Heritage Site. The 2-mile-long tunnel and its approach are all part of upgrading the narrow stretch or highway, which is A303. Actually, it is very close. It runs startlingly close to the iconic stone circle, about 200 feet, just about that. And this has been long notorious for traffic jams and long delays. Now, the approval came despite strong objections from alliance of archaeologists, environmentalists, and even modern-day Druids who consider the site very sacred. And the approval came, and there was a huge cry over this. Now, the visuals that you see actually talks for itself. And supporters for this tunnel projects, they felt that highway tunnel will relieve traffic congestion, fear that the loss of ancient artifacts that are still hidden underground, that are yet to be discovered. So this is the situation. Looking at the history a little bit, the map shows you the exact part that I'm talking about. One of the most notorious bottlenecks is along that, the red that is marked, along that A303. This is a narrow 2-lane stretch between Amesbury and Berwick Down in Wiltshire. That's why the highway passes within 200 yards of the iconic stone circle, one of the British's most popular tourist attraction today. So the road was never actually designed for anything like these, this level of traffic. Over the decades, more than 50 different proposals were actually proposed to solve this traffic problem. Now, the idea of tunnel was first proposed in the early 1990s, and this was revisited several times after that over years. But it was dismissed every time, not because they were worried about disturbing the heritage site, but more because it was high cost. Originally, this was the road designed in 18th century between London and Exeter, where it evolved to become a main artery for England's southwest. In addition to Stonehenge visitors, it carries heavy truck traffic and hordes of holiday travelers who head to some seaside destinations in Cornwall and Devon. So, looking at the history of the proposal itself, since 1991, like I said, 51 close to road improvement proposals were proposed and considered for A303. Now, the tunnel scheme was first proposed in 1994, and this was abandoned 2 years later as it was too costly. And it appeared again in the government's agenda in 2000, in the next year itself. And finally, the government in 2014, and this was delayed because they suddenly, with the advanced techniques, they could realize that the site is very rich with so many undiscovered artifacts underneath. So this kind of delayed a little bit, but again, this was firm decision by the government was again put up in 2017. Now, this is where the archaeological or British archaeology tries to step in, and they said the growing body of research suggesting that more radical approaches to transport policy. Now, the whole issue around this site was the traffic and the road. To avoid that, or they were trying to come up with solutions. And British archaeology said that they could bring in more research on this, where they could look at more other radical approaches for transportation, strategies to encourage a shift away from car dependency. That was their focus. If they shift that dependency, then naturally the road would get decongested. That was their idea. And that could also be the long-term sustainable strategy was their solution. But they also agreed, to further do research and come up with many more radical solutions for this, and not to really go ahead with this tunnel project. In fact, they described this as a self-destructing time bomb. But with all this, government still continues to hold on to it. Now let's take a quick understanding of how supporters for this project actually feel and their points. They say the tunnel will restore the landscape of its original setting and improve the experience of the visitors, now which is topping about 1.5 to 1.6 million a year. So visitors will have, will be able to experience Stonehenge as it ought to be experienced, without these ugly snarl of truck traffic that you see, on a daily basis that they run into right next to the site all the time. And people forgot that they had to realize that Stonehenge is more than just a stone circle, for that matter. It is a landscape. This will make it a place for walking again, the under tunnel project. That's what they said, because the road is not seen, the trucks and the traffic and the cars are not seen. The site is in its original pristine format. So that was their claim. And they said that visitors will be able to approach the Stonehenge much better, say for instance from the south, without taking their life in hands, trying to cross the highway, which is so dangerous. And placing the noisy and intrusive A303 within a tunnel will also reunite Stonehenge with the surrounding prehistoric landscape and help future generations to better understand and appreciate this wonder of the world. Ultimately, they said people need to remember that it isn't about building a road in the World Heritage Site, as some people always thought or even thinking. It is a project to remove an existing road and put it underground. these were the things that they felt, and these were some of the points that they argued upon for the project. But again, dissenters came up with their own arguments. You see a poster here, a person trying to tell that they don't need this tunnel. It is not really a good idea to have it here. Now they say that a boat tunnel would divert the road away from the Stonehenges. That's correct. But it would also damage other parts of what was once a much broader ritual landscape. And opponents also said that tunnel project may irreparably damage an ancient landscape that is only beginning to understand in its full now. There are still a lot of surprises hidden, and that which yet to be discovered. They also said that unearthed crucial information about the humans who lived near the Stonehenge as early as 8000 BC. The decision to build this tunnel is absolutely gut-wrenching, and it is really a bad idea. Head-bangingly stupid decision is what they said, and they would lose about 500,000 of artifacts there when they bring these machines to pull off the topsoil, and all of this will go without recording. They are just a bunch of old fringes, some might feel, but they tell us a lot about the Stonehenge landscape over a millennia which existed. So remote sensing, like I said before, has revolutionized archaeology and is transforming our understanding of ancient landscape much, much better. And they revealed some of the very important things that could be underneath these sites. And that's when the project got delayed a little bit, but then it came back. And the building of tunnel would be like, it is an act of monstrous vandalism is what these people said. So now these are the two sides and with their arguments. Supporters had English Heritage, National Trust, and Historic England, and all of these, quoted as supporting the concept of tunnel, with some concerns, of course, some such things, the gateways on either side and few other things. But other than that, they felt this project is a good idea to bring in. While dissenters, we look at WISL, the Stone Age Alliance. So these alliance and agencies, Friends on Earth, they also, important people who fought against this idea and campaigned for better transport. So this was from transport, and some people, and they campaigned for, not going for this project. So these were some of the people who opposed the idea. So on both the sides, there were people from very well-known institutions who are involved in conservation and conserving the World Heritage Sites and heritage properties in England. So that when we understand, we kind of think, who is right, who is wrong. It's really difficult to, put in our perspective at this point. And in July 2019, UNESCO renewed its condemnation. It is stepping in only in 2019, and they opposed the proposal, of course. And they urged the government not to really approve the scheme, and that it would have adverse impact on the outstanding universal value of the site. Now, we all understand OUV very well today, and it is up to us to actually, decide or realize this. Now, the focus is campaigning heritage site for democracy. With that background, the current situation is that on 12th November 2020, the Secretary of the State SHAP granted the development consent order for the project. And this was overruling the recommendation of all the planning inspectors. And despite widespread oppositions and petitions that ran across the world, actually, they went ahead and gave this a green signal. Now, what you see on the left side is the Stonehenge Alliance. This is again a democracy group which is fighting for the heritage. this campaigning group actually repeatedly said that, any tunnel shorter than 2.7 miles would cause irreparable damage to the landscape. The group also responded with a statement saying that, we object strongly to the short tunnel scheme and address archaeological, natural environments, landscape, and transport consideration. We highlight the incompatibility of the Convention, its own planning guidance and policies, and the widely agreed World Heritage Site Management Plan in 2015. So they brought in all the records or recommendations and declarations and all of that into view of government, and said that, it's really a bad idea to do this. Now, these campaign for democracies, they aim to become the world's leading ecosystem for all the descendants and supporters of democracy. The campaign will undertake a continuous public relations campaigning, engaging supporters of democracy worldwide and building a powerful intellectual movement where they fight for such cause. Now, this is one example that we are looking at. And the current state is that a mass held on 5th December 2020 by this Alliance of Local People and Groups, Climate Activists, and Archaeologists. So this is the current state. We don't know what will happen. It's still going on. Now, at this point, I think I should park this here, and let's take a shift and look at what is happening in India with respect to heritage and democracy. Now, it's not really a coincidence that in 2017, Delhi Declaration on Heritage and Democracy calls for ethical principles in heritage, inclusive democratic community process, and ensuring the continuity of living heritage. Now, this was the 19th General Assembly on the International Council of Monuments and Sites, ICOMOS 19th General Assembly. This was held in Delhi in 2017. And in this, approximately about 1,000 heritage professionals from 130 nations around the world had come, and they sat and discussed over this, and they felt that heritage and democracy had to be looked at, and it is an urgent need. Now, this declaration reflects the commitment by ICOMOS to heritage and democracy as key ingredients in people-based approach. Now, here the approach is not for the government or for some institution; it is more for people, for all the sustainable developments with respect to conservation. Now, heritage is a fundamental right and responsibility of all. It is a starting point for a meaningful and equitable future that secures and celebrates diversity, social engagement, equality, and justice for all cultures. They started with this, and they went ahead, and I think you can find the reports on the net regarding the same. I would urge all of you to just go through it to understand the heritage and democracy better. Now, here the gist of it is Delhi Declaration emphasizes the understanding that people's perspective is the center of the heritage. And General Assembly declared that ethical principles, a lot of people are involved in conservation, but they are not aware of ethical way of doing the same. So that must be developed. They felt that there is a need to provide guidance for that ethical principles that one should follow when they are involved in conservation of cultural heritage. So cultural identities should not be compromised by uniform or any incentive planning. That was what they gave. Let's understand this better with a local example that will bring in more clarity. So now, public participation and local community involved have taken central stage in heritage practice in the recent decades. That's what we understand. In contrast with this, established position in wider heritage work, public engagement with conservation practices way less developed. The focus here is on conservation as the practical care of material cultural heritage with all its associated significance for local people. Now, how can we be more successful in building capacity for local ownership or leadership of heritage conservation projects, as well as improving participative involvement in decisions making process. So prioritizing authenticity or authentic meaning is better done by the local community who are involved with the heritage site. The high relevance to the society, striving for the inclusion of principles of democracy and social justice into the process, particularly with conservation of heritage, that kind of affords identity for the people. Now, every one of us, like the story, right? Narrative with traditions, heritage, public participation, and trying to protect cultural property, which goes beyond local boundaries. Like we just discussed Stonehenge as a case, but I would like to bring all of you to a local case where only 5 or 6 people of this community fought the ruling members of the community trust to protect the heritage of more than 800 years old. Let's go to Bindiganavile. It is a small, sleepy hamlet in Karnataka, which is about 130 kilometers from Bangalore, and this falls in Mandya district. Bindiganavile temple is dedicated to Sri Channakeshava Perumal and his consort Sri Saumyanaiki Tayar. But the uniqueness is that the temple also has a separate Sannidhi to Sri Vainatheya. Vainatheya is a Garuda who is vehicle of Vishnu. So temple is located in Channakeshava Street, Temple Street, Bindiganavile. It is a small hamlet, actually. It's a village. But the beauty of it is, you don't really find Vainatheya or Garuda, Vahana of Vishnu, having a separate Sannidhi elsewhere. All the Vishnu temples will have him as a Utsava Murti. They don't have a separate Sannidhi for him. But that's the uniqueness of this particular temple. And going back to history a little, this is, in the history referred as Mayurapuri, owing to the large number of peacocks that you can still find there in early morning fields, actually. Bindiganavile also is home to a big and beautiful lake called Garuda Tataka, which is said to have been part of Veera Vaishnavi River also. Let us just backtrack and learn more about the village. This village has been mentioned in Puranas as Mayurapuri. The original name, I believe, of the village was Dindiganavile, which means village of Dindiga, plants. Dindiga means plants, and Navile means peacocks. So the name finally transformed into Bindiganavile, where Bindiga means land of hillocks and peacocks. So they have named this village based on the landform and the fauna, which is so ubiquitous of the place. Now that's a little bit of history, but what is more important is the values and significance of this place before we actually get into the issue. I will run over Sthala Purana very, very quickly. Channakeshava temple, actually, we know Channakeshava temple of Belur, right? This particular temple also has been in existence about thousands of years before. So it dates back to Hoysala period. It's said that Acharya Ramanuja, we just discussed this scholar in one of the previous sessions. He was coming down to Tondanuru and Melkote. When he was staying there, he was also traveling to Belur to see Channakeshwara temple. And I believe one of the days he rested here in this village, Bindiganavile. With his influence, this village also became an Agrahara of Sri Vaishnavas. Many Sri Vaishnavas were living in this village until very recently. So this is a Sri Vaishnava Agrahara of a place. So as said, it's an ancient temple with Lord Channakeshwara and Keshava and Tayar Sannidhi. It is also interesting to know how Vainatheya Sannidhi came into existence and how Vainatheya became an Acharya Murti, Archa Murti here. He's not Utsava Murti like in other temples, but he is also placed right next to Keshava and in a specific Sannidhi, and is been there as Mula Murti. And this story is very, very interesting. Now, Belur Channakeshava temple, they ordered a wooden Garuda Vahana from Kanchipuram in those days. So while people were transporting the Vahana from Kanchipuram to Belur, they were resting in some temples, which they found on the way every night. Likewise, when they reached Bindiganavile, it was night and they rested over here. Now that night, the chief of the team, had a dream in which Garuda, whom they were transporting, said, "We are now in Keshava's Sannidhi, and I would like to stay here and serve the Lord." In the morning, this guy tried to narrate the story to his teammates and convince them that they should leave Garuda here, but they didn't believe, of course. So they were all preparing to move him to Belur. But unfortunately, none of them could not, any of them could not move Garuda Vahana from there. While they were still struggling to move Vahana, Palegar of that area came in search of this temple, and he also said that he had a very similar dream where Garuda asked him to make all the arrangements to build temple so that he can be installed and a daily puja is performed here. Now, when this was told with the help of Palegara, all the others, they decided to build the temple, and that's how, Vainateya got his Sannidhi, and he became Archamurti in these temples. Whereas the other temples, you see him as a Vahana, and mostly, in the Dvajastamba, you will have the Garuda statue or the niche, if you recollect. If you have visited Vishnu temples, you would know this. So this place became a significant Sri Vaishnava pilgrimage center after this. As Garuda stayed in this temple on his own, this becomes more important. And even today, thousands of pilgrims from across the world visit seeking his blessings. Now, as the story doesn't end here, as the days pass, since it was a wooden vigraha, it got covered with anthill and serpents started coming and living with it. So people used to pray to the anthill itself, and they were kind of afraid to go near because there were serpents all around. But in the year 1931, the Bangalore municipal chairman, Rao Bahan, him on the left extreme of the slide, he comes to this temple, and then he feels the temple is very beautiful, and he's from this place, so he knows the temple very well. But he gets a dream again, saying that Garuda in his dream says that his body is all completely eaten by the ants and other creatures in Vindigala village. So he says, you make a new one, you make a new vigraha. Now he immediately contacts the sculptors and starts the project. He buys a huge sandalwood and he gives it to the sculptors and asks them to carve the Garuda Murti. But these sculptures can't do that because they don't really know how Garuda looked before and how to do that. They were kind of confused and afraid to chisel the wood. So again, that night, chief of the team, he has dreams where Garuda asked him to start the work next day morning. And when he went to see the wood, he sees the profile of the wood, of the Garuda on the wood, and they started the work on it. Now the outcome is what you see today as the visual showcases. That's what they carved. So the profile was set and they started doing that. There were a lot of other wood piece left. In that, they also carved Anjaneya. On the left, you see the Anjaneya Murti. So they did that also. In the year 1976, all the devotees of the temple, they formed a registered body in the name of Bindiganavile Shri Vainateya Bhakta Mandali. Now that was formed by the bhaktas of the place. And they, from then, celebrate various festivals and functions, and they facilitate all the devotees who are spread across the world. So in 2005, I think, Mandali took initiative with the help of devotees and installed both Sthira and Chara, that is Mula and Utsava Murtis of all 12 Alvars of Sri Vaishnava sect, and also Ramanujacharya and Vedanta Deshikar and others. these Alvars who gave us, 4,000 Divya Prabandhams. With that, they also, contribute to the Kalyana Vainateya. That is on the center picture, you see Kalyana Vainateya. He is sitting with his, consorts, Ruddha and Sukirti. This is very rare. This is very, very rare. In any of the temple, you don't really get to see this with the entire family. So this is again, very unique setup today. Moving on to the architecture of it, this temple is a typical Dravidian design, of course, built, I think, somewhere in the 11th, 12th century. And this follows all the Pancharata Agama Shastras, and even the same Shastras are followed for the worshipping of Lord as well. So you see a beautiful Rajgopuram makes the temple stand out. And this is flanked by beautiful, a scenic, pristine place around it. You also have a huge Arli Katte, which kind of gives that beauty to the entire setup. And inside you find Channakeshwara in the center, flanked by idol of Thayar, Soumya Naikya, and that Kalyana Vainateya with Rudra and Sukirti, all of them on the other side, left side. So on the rear of the temple, the older Garuda, which was there before, idol, that is also encased in a Vrindavan. Now this is the setup, and it's a very modest scale temple, which has grown rich in its spiritual, and the ambience inside is very, very nice of the temple. So this is a very small, modest scale temple. Now let's move on to the issues. The temple authorities are Mujrai department and state government. They are looking after that. Apart from that, they have the Mandali, who are really running the show, as in, conducting all the ceremonies regarding this temple, related to this temple and the community. I'll just leave the slide. Now, issue is some bhaktas who were looking after these temple, who were part of that mandali, felt that there is a need to rebuild this temple as it started bringing in more visitors and tourists. Footfall had really increased over years. But unfortunately, they did not understand the relevance of preserving the heritage. Meant that to preserve the tangible manifestation, which is in the form of temple, which represent all the intangible aspects of the religion and cultural, traditional performances, unfortunately. So they decided to pull down the temple and come up with their own plan, which outrageously displaced all the position of these deities as opposed to what we see today. Now we have an idea how the deities are sitting and how the sannidhis are, and a basic, you can imagine a basic layout of this temple. Now their plan was to shift everything. Like they started with Vainateya near, they wanted to place Vainateya near Garuda Gamba, out of the Sannidhi, which means the unique value of this temple, which was there from 800 years old, the historical value, to replace Keshava and Tayar Sannidhi to current location of Alvar Sannidhi, along with shifting Anjaneya and all the Alvars also. And they are planning for 4 doorways instead of the one that we have today. We have only one entrance to this temple. They want 4 dwaras, like the Tamil Nadu temples. Like their plan is to actually envisage a temple of a scale like ISKCON temple, with that grandeur and scale. As they had got the plan sanctioned as well, they were more keen on demolishing the temple. Now, building a new temple, pulling down this old temple, means loss of all that stands today as tangible, for the community, for the Sri Vaishnava community from the past. They will lose the connection with the Sthala Purana, which brings that spiritual value to it. They would have done an irreversible damage to the historical evidence. We could never relate to the historical part of it or any of the spiritual part of it if they had gone ahead and done that. Now, they already had the plan sanctioned and they were about to do it. Now, this is where 5 to 6 people from the same community, they fought vigorously for saving this temple heritage. Fortunately, those 5 or 6 realized the importance of this heritage value of this temple and they kind of became very strong to oppose them, and they did not know where to go, because the local people of the place do not really understand the importance of this temple, because most of the community people, that is Sri Vaishnavas, who lived there for so many hundreds of years in the past time, now have left the village. They have all left, and they have gone off to the cities, and hardly any family is there today, unfortunately. So they come only during the utsavas and the celebrations, annual celebrations and all that. They stay there for about 13 days till all of that get over, and then they go back to their places. So as such, there is no local community who kind of associate themselves with this temple. So the locals who are there, they're all rural people who have come and settled there over time, and for them it's just a temple. There is nothing more than that. If anything happens to this temple, they are the ones who are least bothered, because they don't understand the value of it, and for them the temple is improved, that's all. It's a development part which they appreciate. So there are really no people in the place itself to support them. So what to do, where to go, and they did not really know what to do. But one thing they knew was that this was taken care by Mujrai department, and that's where they went. They went and sought help from Karnataka government on time, and they did lot of following up and sweat. Finally, they managed to connect to DC, who linked them to ASI department, and they managed to get the ratification done just on time, which stated that nobody can touch the property. They cannot demolish or do any such activity, and they were to retain the temple as it is. And only thing that they were allowed or permitted to do was what is essential. That is very essential repairs, which is required for maintenance and preservation of the physical fabric of the heritage, that can be taken up. So this ratification, when these 5, 6 people got this ratification after following up with the government. Unfortunately, they were lucky to get connected to ASI department and DC and all of that. And now currently they have requested, after this ratification, the Mandali, which were trying to push the project of demolishing this and constructing the new temple, they kind of were disappointed, and they did not show any more interest in doing anything to this temple. It's just left like that. But these people, they are trying to push this with a request to ASI, trying to send people who can come and prepare a report on this temple and can help suggest the repairs which is required, and that they can take it forward. But the disappointed Mandali people are also, not sitting quiet. They are kind of, urging the locals to, put natural, nurture plants to grow around the rear walls of the temples and compound. This is to catalyze the structural decay. Remember, we discussed this structural decay yesterday, and they are trying to do that so that, on that basis, they can put their case saying that the temple needs a renovation or reconstruction and take their plan forward. Now, this leaves us in wonder as, do we need people, representative organizations, or authorities which is neutral, like not for the government or not for any other organization as such, but only to look at people-centric approach for conservation of heritage, what is good for people and good for the cultural heritage. So are we looking at that? At this point, I think I will, put my cases down and go ahead with the assignment. Now, the assignment question again is a very debatable question. It's up to each one of you how you understand and appreciate the democracy and heritage. And based on that, it's a simple question. Are democratic principles and institutions really a necessary ingredient for heritage conservation? Now, in the first case, there were UNESCO involved and a lot of agencies involved who were trying to, promote or propaganda, who were trying to oppose the tunnel project and bring in people across the world together. They were mobilizing people for opposing the thing. But yet, government overrides all of that and still goes ahead to give a green signal to the project. But in the second case, there are nearly no agency or any institution involved, but it is just about 5 or 6 people from the community who are really concerned about conservation of this heritage, and they fought like anything to retain their community heritage. So there are two different cases and two different perspective. One is a World Heritage Site, the other is a local community site. So both had their own fights and struggles, and people and heritage and democracy all fighting for each other. So let's see how you would want to answer this question. With that, I think I will close the session of today. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. There are too many questions regarding this all, actually, because nowadays what happens everywhere in our nation on behalf of this democracy के नाम पर जो हेरिटेज का ये हो रहा है, not only by the peoples, not by the government officers, but the special scholars also, जो इस सब्जेक्ट के मास्टर्स है, उनके द्वारा भी पहले जो गलतियां हुई उसको तो हम समझ सकेंगे, लेट इट बी, बट नाउ डेज व्हाट हैपेंस, अभी अजंता जैसे साइट्स को अगर हम ले, जो यूनेस्को वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट है, तो वहां पर हम देखते हैं कि वहां आज की तारीख में जो आपने रोड का ये दिखाया, वहां पर एक मूवमेंट हुआ है, इसके बारे में आपने बताया, बट यहाँ पर अजंता के सामने से जो रोड सालों से जा रही है, उसके बारे में एक सिंगल लेटर तक किसी ने अभी तक नहीं लिखा। और जब हमने इसके बारे में सवाल उठाया तो उन्होंने कहा पब्लिक को कोई तकलीफ नहीं है तो आपको क्या तकलीफ है। तो ये इस तरह से भी सवाल खड़ा किया गया था। सेकंड थिंग, अभी पिछले 7 सालों से वहां पर रोड का कंडीशन बहुत वर्स्ट है, और इवनिंग, मॉर्निंग, आफ्टरनून, इवनिंग तीनों टाइम हमने फोटोग्राफी और शूट किया है और रिकॉर्ड भी किया है कि वहां जो रोड के हालात बहुत खराब है, उससे जो डस्ट का ये हो रहा है, पूरा अजंता का केव्स का जो हिल है, एक सतह उसकी बन जाती है, एक लेयर बन जाता है। हम रास्ते पर खड़े रह के आधा घंटा तक वहां खड़े भी नहीं रह सकते। तो सच अ ग्रेट डैमेज दिस ऑल अजंता केव्स पेंटिंग्स। मगर दिस इज द फर्स्ट थिंग। सेकंड थिंग, जब हम एलोरा केव्स के इसके में जब बात करते हैं, तो केव नंबर 1 से लेकर के केव नंबर 16 तक आते समय बीच में सिर्फ एक जगह पर कहीं तो भी पानी की व्यवस्था है। अप टू केव नंबर 12 देयर इज नथिंग फॉर द वाटर एंड दैट ऑल। सेकंड थिंग, जहां पर सिक्योरिटी जवान तैनात है, जहां पर गन्स लेकर खड़े हुए हैं, हम टिकट लिए बगैर अंदर प्रवेश भी नहीं कर सकते। ऐसी जगह पर केव से 2 घोड़े बाहर आते हुए मैंने फोटोग्राफ निकाले थे। तो ये बहुत सीरियस थिंग है कि जो वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट है, ऐसे इसमें हॉर्सेस अगर केव से ये हो जाते, बाहर निकलते हैं, तो ये बहुत सीरियस बात हो जाती है। जब मैंने इसके बारे में लिखा तो उसके बारे में बड़ा बवाल भी खड़ा हुआ कि आपको इस तरह से नहीं लिखना चाहिए वगैरह वगैरह, बट हमने ये कहा कि हुज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी इज फॉर दिस ऑल। तो इतने बड़े ऑफिसर्स है, सभी लोग हैं, ठीक है, हमारा रिलेशन अच्छा है सभी के साथ, बट ये जो गलतियां हो रही है इतने बड़े पैमाने पर, एंड जिसे ऑन नेशनल, ये इतना ये होते हुए भी, तो इसके बारे में हम लोग बहुत सीरियस रहना है। आपने तो बहुत छोटी छोटी बातों की तरफ ध्यान दिया, बट इतनी बड़ी बातें जो हो रही है, मगर मैंने जैसे कहा कि नॉट अ सिंगल लेटर, किसी ने कभी उसके बारे में, नॉट बाय एनी आर्कियोलॉजी ऑफिसर्स और द हिस्ट्री प्रोफेसर्स, टीचर्स और द लोकल पब्लिक्स, क्योंकि मैंने अजंता का सारा डॉक्यूमेंटेशन जो किया, रिकॉर्ड्स जब मैंने कलेक्ट किए, तो मुझे इसके बारे में बहुत ये हुआ, ये बात मैं यहाँ पर बताना चाहता हूँ। तो इसके बारे में हम लोग सीरियस हो रहे हैं। यहाँ पर एक हाथ ऊपर उठा है। हाँ, यस प्लीज, यू कैन आस्क द क्वेश्चन। जिनका हाथ ऊपर किया है।
Hello. Ma'am, you're talking about that Garuda Vahana, no?
Yes.
Is it made of wood, you tell, no?
Yes, yes.
And what is Sannidhi? You're using the word Sannidhi.
Sannidhi is the sanctum sanctorium. It is a Kannada term for sanctum sanctorium or Garbhagriha. We are familiar with those terms. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I should have mentioned this. Sannidhi is something that we call down south.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Actually, I completely agree with Bobde ji sir. These are the things where I would again, want to stress people around here. We may not be directly connected to conservation as with our professionals or anything like that. But one thing that we can really do is bring in a lot of awareness regarding all of this. And India like country, we have so much of heritage. Exactly what I'll have to repeat the same thing what I told yesterday, that we take it for granted. We don't appreciate what we have. And that comes from, the tutoring of our environment at home, like our people. We should start at home. We should teach or probably, tell us our kids the relevance and importance of the heritage, and they should start respecting it. Only then I think we can change a little bit of all of this. But it, like sir said, it is really, really very difficult to, we must create that conservation movement kind of a sort movement, awareness movement. अभी बोबडे जी बहुत कुछ कर रहे हैं.
The worst thing is that कि पहले बहुत अच्छी तरह से सोच करके अजंता में जहां तक हमारे पेट्रोल डीजल व्हीकल जाकर के रुकते थे, वहां से फिर हम लोग टिकट लेकर के वहां से फिर हम आगे जाकर के जो सीएनजी पर चलने वाली जो गाड़ियां थी उससे जाते थे, ताकि कोई प्रदूषण ना हो और वहां के पेंटिंग्स और अजंता के उसको जो है वो कोई दिक्कत ना हो, इसके लिए बहुत अच्छा प्रावधान किया गया था. बट चंद पैसों के खातिर कुछ गलत निर्णय लिए गए और आज की तारीख में वहीं पर फिर से पेट्रोल और डीजल की गाड़ियों को अनुमति दी गई, जो कि कभी अच्छा निर्णय लिया गया, अब हम उल्टा जा रहे हैं. इसका मतलब क्या है कि हमें नॉलेज है कि ये खराब हो जाएगा इसकी वजह से, इसीलिए कभी ये अच्छा निर्णय लिया गया था, बट ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ सम सेल्फिशनेस ऑफिसर्स. अभी आज की तारीख में भी वहां पर तो एसआई के ऑफिसर्स आ रहे हैं, वहां नियुक्त है सुपरिटेंडेंट वगैरह, मगर फिर भी कोई कंप्लेन नहीं है, किसी का कोई लेना देना नहीं है. ऐसे चल रहा है, हमारी तनख्वाह मिल रही है, हमको ये हो रहा है, कोई किसी को दुख नहीं है. इतने स्कॉलर्स आ रहे हैं और जो लड़ रहे हैं वो किस लिए लड़ रहे हैं वो भी मैं ये सीरियसली बताना चाहता हूँ. धर्म के नाम पर लड़ रहे हैं जो लड़ रहे हैं. अजंता पेंटिंग्स के लिए अगर कोई ये हो रहा है तो ये बुद्धिस्ट पेंटिंग्स है, तो बुद्धिस्ट मूवमेंट्स उसके लिए लड़ रहे हैं, और कोई लड़ रहे हैं तो किसी और इसके लिए लड़ रहे हैं. बट नीचे वहां पर एक बोर्ड लगा हुआ है, जैन टेम्पल का भी एक बोर्ड वहीं पर अजंता केस में लगा हुआ है, और उसके लिए भी ये चल रहा है. बाकी लोगों की और कुछ लड़ाइयां अलग है, उसमें मैं नहीं जाता हूं. बट मुझे ये कहना है, एक विरासत को बचाने के लिए नो वन इज रेडी. किसी को कोई लेना देना उसके लिए ये नहीं हो रहा है. ये बड़ी गलत बात है. और मैं ये इसलिए कह रहा हूं कि पहले हमने सही कदम उठाए और फिर हम गलत कदम उठा रहे हैं, तो ये इसका मीनिंग बहुत अलग होता है. तो हम सब लोग ये समझे. अगर हमको ये समझ में नहीं, और मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूं क्योंकि हम लोग अगर इस तरह का एक मूवमेंट नहीं चलाएंगे, हम देख रहे हैं बाहर के देशों में ये हो रहा है, मगर हमारे देश में मैं विकिपीडिया जैसे इसको भी जब देखता हूं तो हम जो जानकारी ले रहे विकिपीडिया केस में, वहां तक सीमित अगर हम रहें तो भी हम बहुत भटक जाएंगे इसमें से. तो डीप अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए, नॉलेज होना चाहिए, और हम सब मिलके इस तरह की कोशिश करनी चाहिए एक विरासत को बचाने के लिए. देन ओनली इट विल बी पॉसिबल. अदरवाइज किसी का नहीं रहेगा. अभी आप अगर ये जाति और धर्म केस में बचेंगे तो कल जैसे विक्रम जी ने कहा था कि ये क्यों नहीं हुआ, क्यों बामियान के ये बुद्ध मूर्तियों को नहीं बचा सके. सेम थिंग विल बी हैपन हियर इन आवर. हम जिस पर्सपेक्टिव से उसकी तरफ आज देख रहे हैं, तो कुछ भी नहीं बचेगा. फिर आप जो है लड़ते रहिए, विरासत को जो है भूल जाना, बस उतना ही बाकी रहेगा. आई एम वेरी सॉरी इफ आई एम रॉन्ग, मुझे क्षमा कर दीजिए.
No sir, you are absolutely right. People tend to politicize everything and they only think about development which brings them money for themselves, and nobody is really bothered about heritage. Heritage क्या है, उनको क्या ऐसे कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला. And that's where I think, people, we are the stakeholders of these heritage and we need to fight for it. Let's not wait for any offices or any institutions to, come and help us out. Those 5-6 people, as opposed to the entire, community system, they fought. They had even threats on their lives, but they fought. They saved this for us today, to go and appreciate that. People can do it. And that's what I will stress again, that if we don't wake up now, we'll never be awake to see the good of
पावागढ़
it.
जैसे साइट पे जब हम देखते हैं, पावागढ़ के जो टेम्पल्स है, वहां के जो साइट्स को हम देखते हैं, पावागढ़ में इतने ब्यूटीफुल अभी टेम्पल्स है, बाकी सारे, जिसको भी एक्चुअली वो उसका जो बफर जोन कहते हैं, उस बफर जोन में वो टेम्पल्स आते हैं पूरे. मगर फिर भी आज की तारीख में टिल डेट टुडे जो स्थिति है, क्योंकि हमने जो ग्रुप बनाया उसी में अभी 2-3 दिन पहले उसके फोटोग्राफ्स आए, बहुत बुरा लगा कि एक वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट है. अनफॉर्चुनेटली आई कांट विजिट देयर अप टू नाउ, बट कुछ ही दिन पहले उसके फोटो आए तो देखा तो बड़ा बुरा लगा कि ये पावागढ़ जैसे साइट पर हम अभी तक नहीं कर पाए और इतने सालों से उसको वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट डिक्लेयर किया गया है. आई एम वेरी सॉरी. यहाँ पर 2 हाथ ऊपर ये हुए हैं. विक्रम जी, यस प्लीज आस्क, देन दिव्या जी, आफ्टर विक्रम जी यू कैन आस्क. Yes, Vikram ji, you want to ask anything? Vikram Bharadwaj ji.
So, I have an observation. It is not a question. Basically, हेरिटेज में जो मैं ये फील कर रहा हूँ कि हेरिटेज एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा तो है, लेकिन पर्सनल लेवल पे हर इंडिविजुअल से अपने लेवल पे लेता है. कुछ पर्टिकुलर इंडिविजुअल से मनी मेकिंग का साधन देखेंगे और जो मनी मेकिंग का साधन देखेंगे वो उसे हर लेवल पे एक्सप्लॉइट करने की कोशिश करेंगे. वो चाहेंगे कि जितना ज्यादा पैसा हेरिटेज से क्रिएट किया जा सके वो किया जाए. और ये सबसे बड़ी विडंबना इस पर्टिकुलर इंस्टांस में हो चुकी है. चाहे हम नेचुरल हेरिटेज की बात करें, चाहे हम कल्चरल हेरिटेज की बात करें, चाहे हम आर्किटेक्चरल हेरिटेज की बात करें, टूरिज्म इंडस्ट्री, स्पेसिफिकली टूरिज्म इंडस्ट्री इस पर्टिकुलर हेरिटेज को लगातार करना भी चाहते हैं, वो उनके हाथ खड़े हो जाते हैं, वो इस पर्टिकुलर इंस्टांस में कुछ भी नहीं कर पा रहे. दिस इज द बिगेस्ट इशू. फर्दर मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, हिमाचल की बात फॉरवर्ड करते हैं. हमारे पास जगह जिसमें फॉर द सेम टाइम कुछ पर्टिकुलर हमारी हिस्ट्री से रिलेटेड चीजें हैं, वहां पे आज से 10 साल पहले बहुत कम था. टूरिज्म को जाने के लिए परमिशन नहीं थी, सिर्फ आपके एकेडमिशियन भी वहां जाए थे. टूरिस्ट का इन्फ्लुएंस ज्यादा रहता है कि वो एक तो एकेडमिक्स को वहां पे डिस्टर्ब करते हैं, साथ ही साथ जो आसपास उसके जितना भी पर्टिकुलर एरिया था कि आप गार्डन में नहीं जाएंगे, आप यहाँ नहीं जाएंगे, आप इसको नहीं छुएंगे, लगातार कोई भी पर्टिकुलर पर्सन आएगा फोटो खींचने के लिए, वो उस जगह पे चला जाएगा जहाँ लिखा होगा कि फर्दर यू शुड नॉट एंटर दिस एरिया. और वो इनसेंसिटिविटी कॉमन ह्यूमन बीइंग की है. वो चाहते हैं कि फर्दर दे शुड हैव अ पोज विद समथिंग. और उस कारण से जो एक फर्दर कहते हैं ना कि आपके जब दिल में ही उस चीज के लिए प्यार नहीं है तो बचाना बड़ा मुश्किल इस पर्टिकुलर इंस्टांस में हो रहा है. दिस इज माय ऑब्जर्वेशन एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ टाइम.
I completely agree with you, Vikram ji. उसके बारे में ज़्यादा next session में बोलती हूँ. I completely agree with you. This is the scenario not just with that particular site, but it is something similar which is happening everywhere across India. Every site is experiencing this, and it's a common thing that we all need to fight for. वो अंदर से आना है किसी को हेरिटेज के बारे में, वो सही है.
सही बात है विक्रम जी ने, और आपने जो सही कहा, आस्था होनी है उसके बारे में, तब जाकर ये बच सकता है. सेकंड थिंग, टूरिज्म अगर डेवलपमेंट करना है, अगर हम प्रॉपर वे से उसको अगर डेवलप करेंगे तो हम सबका हित होगा, जिसके लिए भी, यानी जो लड़ रहा है कि मेरा पर्सनल इंडिविजुअल उसमें बेनिफिट हो, तो उसका भी फायदा होगा. बट एक प्रॉपर रूप से अगर हम सब लोग उसको ठीक से करेंगे तो, अगर भीड़ जानी है ठीक है, मगर उसका क्लीनिंग का रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी किसका रहेगा? अल्टीमेटली जो उसका बेनिफिशियरी है वो उसको रिस्पॉन्सिबल भी करेगा. इस तरह से अगर हम सोचेंगे तो शायद ये हो सकेगा.
एक और चीज ऐड करना चाहता हूँ. स्पेसिफिकली हिमाचल में नेचुरल हेरिटेज बहुत ज्यादा है हमारे पास. वी हैव कल्चरल हेरिटेज, वी हैव नेचुरल हेरिटेज, वी डू नॉट हैव आर्किटेक्चरल हेरिटेज भी हमारे पास ज्यादा इन हिमाचल में नहीं है, और जो भी है वो बहुत थोड़ा है. और सबसे ज्यादा इफेक्ट जो पड़ रहा है टूरिज्म इंडस्ट्री का, दैट इज ऑन नेचुरल हेरिटेज एंड कल्चरल हेरिटेज. रिसेंटली फॉर द आपकी ये अटल टनल खुली, जो रोहतांग के अंडर से है। अर्ली इंस्टांसेस में जो आपका सो कॉल्ड कोल्ड डेजर्ट एरिया फर्दर आपका नेचुरल उसको पुट फॉरवर्ड किया था यूनेस्को में कोल्ड डेजर्ट में डालने के लिए। आई डू नॉट नो व्हाट इज द सिनेरियो एट द टाइम एट दिस मोमेंट। वहां पे लोगों का इनफ्लो कम था। जब लोगों का इनफ्लो कम था तो एटलीस्ट नेचर वाज प्रोटेक्टेड। नाउ ड्यू टू दिस पर्टिकुलर टनल, नाउ दैट पर्टिकुलर एरिया इज ओपन टू ईच एंड एवरी पर्सन। कहीं से भी आप आए उस पर्टिकुलर एरिया में जाएं, डिस्ट्रॉय दैट पर्टिकुलर एरिया एज मच एज यू कैन, एंड फर्दर दे विल गो बैक एंड सम फ्यू पीपल जो आपके टूरिज्म से जुड़े हुए हैं, दे विल अर्न द मनी। बट एट द लार्जेस्ट लेवल जो कॉमन स्पीशी है, बायोडाइवर्सिटी उस पर्टिकुलर एरिया की है, that is being continuously destroyed. And with the next 10 years, if the flow of the tourism is like this, I'm dead sure and the biodiversity का एक बहुत बड़ा हिस्सा हम इस पर्टिकुलर इंस्टेंस में
एब्सोल्युटली विक्रम जी, मेरा कल का प्रश्न इसी के बारे में था एक्चुअली। इफ यू नो रिकलेक्ट, दिस इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट आई वांटेड ऑल ऑफ यू टू टॉक फॉर। हम वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट तो बना देते हैं, लेकिन उसका इम्पैक्ट क्या हो रहा है उसके बारे में कौन सोचेगा? व्हेन वी आर द वंस हु नीड टू थिंक अबाउट इट, एंड वी नीड टू गो अहेड विद वर्ल्ड हेरिटेज साइट्स ओनली इफ यू आर प्रिपेयर्ड टू टेक अप द इम्पैक्ट। एंड टूरिज्म के बारे में तो मैं बोलना ही नहीं चाहती। I mean, it's really difficult to even talk about it. It's not something that I can positively talk about at the moment, shayad. But yeah,
Divyaji ask. Yes, yeah. One more question by Divyaji. Yeah, please.
Yeah, धन्यवाद Bhujang Mahodaya. I want to add my experience with somebody regarding this, if you permit me. And also I have a question regarding the physical heritage buildings that we usually at present have now across Bharat. Like I want to ask Sindhu Bhagini ki all these heritage buildings that we have, is it somehow mostly or always connected to the religion? Because I want to ask this because only if somebody believes in their dharma or the religion, you will get a sense of ownership that yes, this is a heritage building that belongs to me, my ancestors. And that's where when somebody I mean any individual, if they get the ownership, like yes, this belongs to my culture or my, does that somewhere relate to that dharma or the religion? Because that's when they feel ownership and probably think that let me not destroy it, let me not spoil it, let me safeguard it. Instead, let me create some awareness about for others about this heritage building. This is particularly related to the physical aspect of the heritage landscape building that we see rather than natural. So that was my question, and I want to share an experience, if Bhujanji permit me, later after you answer this.
Yeah, sure. Ma'am, actually, in a way, you're right, but I would say it in a total different perspective. ये भारत देश तो हमारा है. Why do we have to even bring religion into picture at all? This is nation's heritage. This is our heritage, and we belong to India. हम लोग एक साथ नेशन के लिए अगर लड़े, अगर उस प्रकार देखें, तो everything that belongs to some community is heritage for me also. The World Heritage sites are looking at पूरा जगत का हेरिटेज हमारा है, इसलिए हमें उसे प्रोटेक्ट करना है. It is that perspective. Why can't we think for our own nation, our own India? Why do we even have to bring in our religion into picture at all is my question. But unfortunately, this has become a political agenda. Everything today is a political agenda. कुछ भी बनाओ, टेम्पल बनाओ, मस्जिद बनाओ, कुछ भी बनाओ, the religion or community does not really fight for the sake of what they are doing, but it is always politicized by the politicians, and the fight goes elsewhere, and the whole focus on the heritage that we ultimately have to talk about is never on the scene. तो मेरा ये उत्तर होगा आपके प्रश्न के लिए. शायद आप जो कह रहे हैं वो सही है, पर हमें उससे आगे बढ़ना है. हमारा सोच को इस रिलीजन से उठा के नेशन एज अ पेट्रियट, एज अ ह्यूमन, we need to look at this entire thing, and then that is when we can appreciate somebody fighting for something and can stand by them. नहीं तो सब लोग अपने अपने के लिए लड़ेंगे, अपने अपने के लड़ाई लड़ते रहेंगे, but nobody will achieve anything and ultimately we lose everything.
आस्था के साथ यूनिवर्सल बनो, बस इतना ही। दिव्या जी, प्लीज शेयर योर एक्सपीरियंस।
Okay, Dhanyavad ji. Continuing to what Sindhu Bhagini said, that is true, very much true. Today it has become a much more political agenda than anything else, actually leaving the actual, importance of what we should give to our heritage monuments. But also to further ask you, ma'am, this one, for example, let's take the Ayodhya Ram Mandir thing. That was a heritage thing, right? That is a heritage thing for us, for the land and all that, but also related to dharma, or like our Bhujanga Mahodaya said, the Ellora caves. Why would somebody who is belonging to another religion create awareness into that? When our own people are not bothered about it, isn't it? It is even, we couldn't even expect other people or other belief people to support this, isn't it? We don't see any other religion people supporting this Ram Janmabhoomi or the Ellora caves, even from a tourist perspective. Maybe they all will come and have a look at it aesthetically.
Yeah, because
yes, it is
today,
beautiful, but they wouldn't bother to properly safeguard it, isn't it? So somewhere around they linked at a very ground level, I mean to say, not in a very larger scale, but for them
yes,
individually, they
actually,
might not
you're right.
relate to it at all, right? Ellora caves. Why will somebody else who is not following our dharma think that I should safeguard this? Because he won't, isn't it? He or she won't. So when our people only don't do it majorly, so why will they even think? So it is really very nice to
If you
talk that, yeah, we have to talk on a human perspective like Bharat, that is all correct, but practically it is not happening. And also I think it will remain like it's like a dream, I mean, not really happening, isn't it? That's what I want to say.
If practically we can see, then this Ram Janmabhoomi excavation done by.
yeah, I agree with you in a way, but then this is where we need to break away from this attitude. सर आप म्यूट में हो, आप कुछ कह रहे हैं?
हाँ, जब ASI के अंडर जब पहला एक्सकैवेशन किया गया था अयोध्या में, who was leading the team? If you know that, then you can get all the answers. तो मुझे सिर्फ ये कहना है, आस्था जरूर होनी चाहिए, मगर आस्था के साथ साथ मैं ये कहने की कोशिश कर रहा हूँ कि विरासत को विरासत के रूप में देखिए, तभी ये बच पाएगी। अदरवाइज जैसे हमने कहा कि कुछ बचना नामुमकिन है, ये बामियान का एक एग्जांपल जैसे बताया, उस तरह से सोचिए, सब अपने आप में समझ में आएगा। यहाँ पर चेतना नायक जी ने हाथ उठाया है। यस,
before Chetna ma'am, if I could just answer Divya ma'am a little, this you're right कि ऐसा हो रहा है कि religion is the biggest way to think heritage also. तो मेरा ये वादा है कि अगर हम इससे बाहर जाए, I mean, religion should not be the way we look at our heritage. That's the point. I think this is where we all have to, at least, those who agree with me should differ from the perspective which is existing. Only then we can fight against it. ये हमारा country है, हमारा heritage है, and that's about it. It is nothing to do with religion. Every unity in diversity is what we need to bring in back. We're all different. अगर आदमी का 5 उंगलियां एक तरह नहीं है, and you need all the 5 fingers to do some activity. That itself is giving us an idea that we all have to come together despite our individual beliefs and our individual faiths to protect our nation and nation's heritage. So actually, जैसे आपने कहा ना, Ram Janmabhoomi, there is a very low profile activity going on by RSS, and I was part of it the entire last week. Like we were given 6 streets to cover, where we went to every house, and the agenda is very clear that सबको पता होना चाहिए कि क्या हो रहा है राम जन्मभूमि के इस अभियान में. And the only thing was, like, we go to every individual's house and ask for not donation, it is more like samarpanam that you do to God with your own interest. And it was a very, very low-key activity. We just went and gave them the picture what is happening, and that's about it. If they wanted to give money, they could, but it was our duty to bring them an understanding of this activity. Now हम जो कर रहे हैं ये आज का situation, कल का heritage होगा ना, तो people should be knowing about all this. So that's a different topic of course. But मैं यही कहना चाहती हूँ कि आपके प्रश्न के लिए हम अपने रिलीजन से थोड़ा बाहर निकल के सोचना है, अगर if you really want to protect the nation's heritage. That's about it.
चेतना जी, प्लीज.
धन्यवाद.
Namaste. Actually, it is an extension to what Divya ji said. Can you hear me? आपको सुनाई दे रहा है मैं बोल रही हूँ?
Yes.
So this is an extension to what Divya ji said. She was talking about is all our heritage sites are religious sites only, or is there something else? So I come from my original land is from towards Mangalore side, and I can tell you I can tell you 100% that we have lost a lot of heritage, which is actually not religious. Your residences, palatial houses with beautiful carvings, and even each and every object within the house has been simply sold off, pulled down to build up a concrete structure. And right now we are talking about temples or painting, something that has caught the world's attention, but a lot of these things have never caught the world attention. There are very, very few houses left with the, of course now we have something like Dakshina Chitra, or which is the other one, Hastakala Heritage Village, where some of the houses have been transported completely and to certain extent saved. But really we have already lost a lot of heritage.
Yeah, there is also a lot of intangible heritage with respect to family accreditations, like you said. There are forts and other things which are non-religious also. We are losing everything today in the name of development. Just now I completely share her
I
echo whatever she just said.
In the name of blind modernization, somehow my the country tiled structure is less worthy, less useful than a concrete roof. Kacha construction, kacha, this thing, you don't appreciate that they were beautifully carved. Somebody carved those columns and beams, and even the roof. Every panel in the roof is so beautifully carved, and overnight it's all gone. Actually, many of it was saved by one person called Mr. Vijaynath Shene, who was because of whom today we have the Hastakala Heritage Village in Manipal. And he was saying they were putting it for firewood. The entire structure would go for firewood. And he would pay them like 50 paisa, 1 rupee, and he would spend on the transportation of those columns or those panels to his own house, and then he built a structure, and from there the Manipal Foundation took it over, and now we have the Heritage Village.
Very true, very true. And this is what we all have to stop, and this can be stopped only when we bring in more and more awareness of all of these to the younger people. And I think that's the way forward. There's no other way, because no institution or no single person can do anything. It is a duty of every citizen to protect what they had and appreciate. And we can do only that when we realize the values of it, right? I mean, agar किसी को उसका अहमियत नहीं मालूम होता तो they won't bother of
more importantly, I feel it is a sense of belongingness, that it is mine. When it is a sense that it is mine and it is valuable, only then we can really save it. Largely when you take the students and on trips and all that, and you see all these students trying to carve, making jokes, there is no sense that this belongs to me, this is part of my ancestry. That feeling is not there. And I think that should come with the education. I don't know how it will happen.
Yes. I completely agree with that. The education plays a huge role today. Like, I was just thinking this is a nice platform for me to discuss all this, because every time I discuss this with students, they don't really connect to what I'm talking about. One incident that really hurt me recently was, like, I was taking history of architecture for my architecture students, and I just asked the first question that, how many of you go to temple, or how many of you have seen a temple? Believe me, I'm not exaggerating. Not a single hand, was raised. Nobody was talking about, they felt that they were ashamed to tell that, they appreciate temple, or they go to temple, or whatever. They did not want even to tell temple. It really shocked me. And this is where, I felt very strongly that, what are we giving to our children? Are we really doing justice? Educating our youngsters, young minds, to think about heritage, culture, and that's where it should all begin at home. When we do that, when we take it forward, and that's the only way to take this forward. Education, awareness, both